Hi, I'm sitting here with Denise O'Connor, two-time Olympian. She's holding the Women's Foil Team Cup that she and her Sal Santelli compatriots won 5 or 6 or 7 times.
It was either us or the Fences Club or Jan and Maxine from California. So
there you have it.
Yeah.
So first I wanted to talk to you today about what got you when you started fencing. Did Giorgio start with you? Who started you?
No. What had happened was, in high school I was a basketball player. And when I went to college, the only competitive sport for women was fencing. So I tried it out, I liked it, I was good. My coach was Tom Garrity. And at the end of 3 years, Mr. Garrity came to me and says, Denise, I cannot teach you anything. I don't know anything else to teach you.
Was this in Brooklyn College?
No. I went to Jersey City State Teachers College.
Okay.
So Mr. Garrity said, I'm sending you over to Maestro Giorgio Santelli in New York. So I went over there my senior year, and of course Giorgio at that time was only teaching Olympians and national champions, and I was just a college fencer.
And what year was this?
1952.
All right.
And what happened was he gave me to Al January. So Al January was actually, beside Tom Garrity, who gave me the basics of Italian football, Al January was the one who really started me on my way to success. I loved him. After about 2 years, one day I came to the Sal, and Al was sick. He wasn't there. So Giorgio had finished his lessons. He looked around and pointed. He says, O'Connor, come here. I give you lesson. So my eyes were wide open. I went over and I bit my lip, and I don't think I did anything right in the lesson. So after the lesson was over, he says, O'Connor, you are my student now. So I bit my lip and I said, thank you, Maestro. I went into the ladies' room and I cried. I said, I love Al. I can't do anything that Giorgio wants me to do. What am I going to... So I went downstairs and I talked to his wife, Betty Santelli, and I said, Betty, I don't want to be Giorgio's student. I want to be Al January's student. And Betty said, you can't tell the Maestro you don't want to be his student. So I became Giorgio's student. Now, when I was fencing in college, and sometimes down, whenever I retreated quickly, I would always fall down. My first lesson, Giorgio stopped the lesson and he said, move your back foot forward about 3 inches. My back foot, move it forward. I moved it forward and I never ever again fell. That was the very first really good competitive lesson I took from Giorgio.
Really?
And Giorgio always told me that when you teach someone, you start with what the fencer has and you make it work. So therefore, Mr. Garrity was teaching me the Italian school of fencing. Al January, he gave me a terrific parry, leap post, beat lunge. I could do all of these things.
One question about Al January. Do you know who taught him?
Gee, I don't know.
Did he learn in Chicago?
I just can't remember now.
Fine.
But he was terrific. And he had the fastest feet of anybody, you know that. But anyway, Giorgio did not try to change me. What he did was make whatever I had work even better than it did before. Now, one thing that happened was, I'm a teacher, right? So I said, Giorgio, well, why this and why that? And then one day he said to me, Diva. He called me Diva. He says, Diva, I cannot spend the time talking to you. You come on Saturday morning and you ask the questions. So I took my 2 lessons during the week and I did the tick, 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 tick. And on Saturday morning I went and I said, Giorgio, why this? And he told me, he was very, very good because I later became a coach. And I always thought that Giorgio was prouder of my coaching abilities than my fencing because he told me I carried on. I wasn't Giorgio Santelli, but I carried on with his teachings. Now, one thing I didn't like about Saturday morning, visitors would always be coming from Europe. So they would be sitting there and Giorgio would give me a lesson. Now this was the lesson. Tick, 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 down and back. Tick, 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 tick. and I was going, I'm not learning anything, you know. He's showing off.
Right, I know that lesson.
So you know that lesson? So I'm going,
He's done that with Carolyn too.
Yeah, it's going up and down, up, tick, 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 and looking very, very, and he would stand there, and every once in a while he would go, you know how Giorgio is, he'd put his point on the floor and he'd go, on guard. I go tick, 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 up and down. But it was, you know, it was fun. It was great fun, and it didn't happen too often.
How would you describe your best game? What was your way of fencing people?
My best game was second intention, because I hated the lunge.
So how would you do it?
What I would do is I would make a deep feint, and then whatever you did, I would follow through. You know, it's according, like with the beginners, I would feint, and they would parry. I mean, it would be parry repost or parry disengage. You know, and later on, what I developed was a very strong parry 6, counter 6 parry, and I would catch the point of my opponent's blade in my guard, and it would freeze them. I would actually feel my opponent freeze. So from there, I just pressed my thumb down on the blade, down on the foil, and hit. You know, it was very. It was.
So you would do an opposition frequently, or did you disengage, or how did you?
No. I never disengaged in 6. I just did. You know, 4, and I would take it and I would hold it and I would feel them freeze. People today would call it a flick, but it wasn't a flick. You know, it really was not a flick. I would take it and I would just straighten it with my thumb.
Okay.
And that's what. And that was my favorite. I love that.
How did you fence somebody like Betty Santelli? How would you fence her?
She was so smart.
Because she knew your game, right?
Yeah, she was.
So what would you do with Betty?
We would. Oh, I don't remember. But we would fence back. You know, Giorgio always told me, once the blades meet, you stop thinking and react. So I always thought before, so I said, you know, if I feint, Betty's going to parry, but then I know if I see, Betty's main and best skill against me was a parry disengage. She always hit me with a parry 4, disengage 6 without fail. Without fail, she would do that. But I think in all the years we fenced, I think she only defeated me once. You know. But I loved to fence her because she was so classic. Just so classic.
What about Harriet King? How did you deal with Harriet King?
This is how Harriet King. Harriet hated, you can ask her, Harriet hated to fence me. So she's left-handed, right? I would advance, and what I would do is I would take a very, very wide, open my 6th line. I would open my 6th line, she would come into the 6th line, and I would do that counter 6 in, you know. I would do the counter 6 in. And then once she did that, if she saw me doing that, then I would do the disengage. I loved the fencer because I really had a number. And I remember I had defeated her at one Nationals, and then the next Nationals was in Atlantic City. So I was fencing, this was actually the Olympic trials for 76. So I'm fencing her and I'm doing the same thing, and I beat her like 5-0. So she took off her mask and she looked at her coach. She says, "Do you have any other ideas?" You know, so I love it, you know, these things. But we had fun, we fenced, you know, everything was tick, tick, tick. Maxine Mitchell, I never ever defeated her. She had me down, boom. Jan Rummery, I defeated her. She hated to fence me because, once again, classic Italian foil. If you fence classic Italian foil, I got you. I got you because, you know why? I always thought, you're Giorgio and you're giving me a lesson.
Right.
So therefore, when you do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this.
Did you ever fence Helena Dow?
Oh, God, no. I'm not that old. I'm not 100.
I'm just wondering if she was still fencing or anybody.
No.
I'm sorry.
I never even saw her in person. No, it was Maxine, Jan Romery, Tommy Angel,
Drungus.
And then we talk about Grace Cell, Ann Drungus. Yeah, go down. Jay Reed was always tough, but once again, Jay Reed fenced classic Italian foil.
Vivian Sokol.
Vivian Sokol was tough. She was smart fencer. But
she didn't move very well, did she? Footwork wise?
No. She was all hands.
That's what I thought.
Beautiful, beautiful hand. And then Oh, what? Joe Schaff. No, not
Joe
Joe.
Schaff.
Not Joe Schaff. That tall. What the heck was her name from the Fences Club? And, yeah, and she was my idol. I just loved to watch her fence.
Really?
Tall. And her husband also was a fencer. Damn, I can't think of her name. But she would always clean my clock too. I think when I finally figured it out. You know, when I finally figured you out, that was it. I can't think of her name. Isn't that funny? Tall, very tall. Right-handed, classic, beautiful. She did well.
Do you remember her husband?
No. She did well she was in the finals for the qualifying round for the Olympics in Germany, in Munich. And she actually had the points, but they took Judy Goodrich over her. Do you remember that? Remember her?
Right.
Beautiful fence.
I've bought a bunch of pictures of Judy Goodrich. I now own a bunch of them. They're real good.
I never fenced her because she actually was before.
I don't know her.
I was just coming up to. She was young. But we had really, a lot of fun, a lot of battles, and they were all fencing. We didn't have speed. What we had was a hand.
Did Giorgio charge you for the lessons?
Oh yeah, I was a club member. I paid.
So you paid for the club membership, which included the lessons?
Which included the lessons. Oh yeah, I had whatever the membership was, I paid, and I didn't have a problem. I was a school teacher, so I didn't even ask. I don't know if there were people who didn't pay or what, but I didn't care.
Right.
I was just very happy. I was very happy.
Now you're coaching.
Yes.
What is your biggest? Do you have any particular memories that thrill you about your coaching?
I have so many memories about coaching. My best team was my '76 team at Brooklyn College when they went 21-0, and then we went to the NIFWFA championships. And guess who happened to be the team at that time? San Jose.
Oh right.
With Vincent, but we were
Vinny,
second.
Stacy, and Gabe.
Yeah, we were second. But I had my two girls were All America. We were second.
Who were your best girls?
Jeanette Starks-Faulkner.
She's fabulous.
And
she still weighs like 60 pounds.
Yeah, and Anne Marie Walters. Now,
and they're still fencing.
Yeah, after the kids left the nest, first Anne Marie came back, and then she took Jeanette. So they dominated the over 40s, and they also dominated the over 50s. Jeanette has been defending champion for, 3 or 4 years. And sadly, Anne-Marie is always third. She's always third. But this year she placed third in the over 50s, and then the next day she was third in the veterans, which means everybody over 40. She was third the next day. She's just phenomenal. She's in good shape. She has a great sense of timing, but Jeanette is a very, very classic fencer, and it's a pleasure to watch her fence. So,
when you taught these women to fence,
yes,
did you do the same thing that Giorgio did of keeping their strength, or did you try to remake them?
Oh, no. No, wait, there was a difference. I taught them from the beginning. So I taught the Italian school. The only one was Anne Marie. Anne Marie had this fantastic sense of timing that used to drive me crazy. Because when I would fence her, she would hit me because the timing was off. And that's what she has now. If you ever see her fence, she has this fantastic sense of timing. She's not a classic fencer. All of my other fences at Brooklyn College were what you would call classic fences. Beat point.
How would you call Italian style? What were some of your main factors for Italian foil?
Always the blade. The blade. I could not fence without the blade. French style, you fence without the blade. Me, I needed the blade. I needed your blade. I would feint, you would give me your blade. I would do a beat. I would do counter six. I loved counter six. I loved feint, a double disengage. But it was the meeting of the blades. And then I always tried to teach my girls, what Giorgio taught me is that you parry and hit off the. I could never teach that. They could not get it. And then once when I saw Trellini fence in, I said, oh my goodness, that's what Giorgio wants. Because, she took this counter six, and everybody around me was saying, oh look, she's doing the flick. She wasn't doing the flick. She was doing the counter six. She was grabbing the blade. She slid like for an nth of a second. She just went forward a little bit and then dropped her point and hit. She was fantastic doing that. You know, and it's always the blade, the blade, the blade, just like Vasali now. I mean, Vasali, you step in, man, you step in, and she's going to take your blade and hit you. You just, if you breathe too heavily, she takes your blade and gets in here. But of course, they're so fast now, my goodness. Me, I did advance, advance, retreat, retreat. That's how we fence then. Everything was boom, 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 boom. And I watch these people now, I said, when I watched the World Championships on television this year from Sicily, I couldn't believe the speed. I mean, brum, brum, brum. I said, I don't think I could have ever done that. I would have gone into epee, but we didn't have epee.
What about your Olympic moments? Do you have any that stand out to you?
No.
What about visiting the places you went to? 76, you went to Montreal. Was that any big deal?
Yeah, but you're talking about fencing. You know, you want
right.
fencing. Yeah, you want fencing.
But nothing
stuff.
about the fencing really struck you?
No, it's just that, you know, we only went once a year. We went to the World Championships. Oh, I did something memorable. In Turkey, whenever that was, in Turkey, the first round I eliminated the fencer who was to win the World Championship the next year. The French girl, she fences now in the seniors. Darn it.
I wish I could think of her name,
yeah.
but cannot think of it.
Yeah. But she was she's a track star. She's a PE teacher in Morocco or someplace, but she was French. And she had, I felt her, she used to come to the Martini Rossi in New York. And I felt her thighs once, and they were like steel. I said, you know, I kept calling everyone. I said, come over here, feel these thighs. They were like steel.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. So then in Turkey, I went up to the next round, and she was eliminated. So what happened, she went to Russia to study for a year, and then she came back the next year and won the World Championship. And I was friendly with the Russian fencers, and they were so angry. They would tell me, oh yes, look, she comes to us and she trains with us, and what does she do? She beats us and she wins the World Championship. So I thought, well, that's what she's supposed to do.
Right.
But she's in the veterans now. She has won the veterans. She's won the veterans foil, and she's won the veterans epee. So, but darn it, I just can't, you know, right now, you know, see this, it's on my lips, but
it's okay.
I just can't remember.
One more question for you. Is there any other coach besides than Al January and your original coach at Jersey City State and then Giorgio, any other coach get involved in helping you?
Never. No one ever. Giorgio always told me, he says, Diva, you can take lessons from other coaches, but only take what you want. And that's what I tell other people, and they don't understand that.
I tell my kids that same thing.
No, they don't understand that. I said, so what? Take a lesson from somebody else. You know, nobody's gonna get, but only if you learn something good, learn something good, take it. You don't have to remember everything.
Right.
But all these things that he told me, he says, Diva. And another thing he always told me that I always tell my students, Diva, score 5 touches before she scores 5. Well, at that time it was 4. You know, we only
right.
He says, Diva, hit her 4 times. So sometimes he says, Diva, you fence these. What are these? I says, Giorgio, but you know, I like to have these kids. You know, they score a touch on me, and they say, I scored a touch on Denise O'Connor. I scored a touch on Denise O'Connor. No, you should always fence. 1, 2, 3, 4. You go on the strip. 1, 2, 3, 4. Off. That's it. You know, he would say that. But lots of times I would give the kids a thrill. You know,
it's okay, Denise.
It's okay.
Well, Denise O'Connor, thank you so much for the interview.
Oh, my pleasure.
Greatly appreciate it.
And you're doing a great job. I love it, and I love that you're putting my name all over there in my pictures. And I actually have.
Do you promise to send me more stuff?
I promise.
On tape? Promise.
I won't even be sick. I'll do it while I'm healthy. You know,
Thank
I'm scared now that
Thank you.
You scared me.
Thank you.
But I want you to know that several people in the past have written to me on email saying, oh, I just saw your picture in this fence. Do you know they say, first of all, say, Denise, do you know there's a fencing hall of fame on? Yeah. No, like I don't know this. And then they tell me that they see the pictures. And then I also, just recently, Kathy Kopp-Taylor, who was champion, who was a collegiate champion in, I don't know, maybe about 1950 or so. So I said, Kathy, did you know that your name's in the on the?
Oh,
she says,
right.
wow. So then I wrote to her and I said, look on, you know, niwrfa.com, and she did just, oh, and then she saw everything else. She said, oh, this is so exciting, and then so much, well, they're just lists, that's all it is. They're just lists of, you know, everybody, so, yeah. So
Thank you so much, Denise.
You're welcome.
See you later.
Okay.